I'll say the up. All right. Hold on. Let me pull them up, and then if we have time based on. I won last week, by the way.
Well, bully for you. I
I
only
took-
have one. I only have one thing to say about that.
Well,
You didn't win.
Yeah, I did because I took the. It was we in line. We're 2-2 going into the Monday Night Football game.
No,
He
no,
took
no, no, no.
Bills,
Because the night before, Saturday night we met
-14.
up. Saturday night we met up. You asked me for my picks. You didn't record them.
You gave me
I think I
one
went 5
pick.
and 0. I went like
You
5
didn't
and
go
0.
5-0.
Come on, bro. Sneak pick 2. You know I'm gonna get him right.
All right, that's the next thing. Anybody going wild?
I'm a little
No,
tired.
you're not. He's not going wild. Okay.
He's muted. He's a retard.
Sorry. I mean, there's nothing to go wild on except for, I have nothing on football to go wild on.
Okay.
Unless
nice.
you want me to go wild on John Gruden, because I'm a big fan of doing that. Or coaches' egos.
I mean, we'll put
You did that last week.
Yeah.
I did coaches' egos last week.
You
No,
did
I think you did
last
something
week,
on
but I don't
Gruden.
know. All right, you guys ready?
Let's get this started. I feel
Count it
bad
down.
with the fucking Mets. Just sitting there.
Welcome back to another episode of J&J Talk Sports Podcast. We are doing an NFL mid-season recap review where we go over the NFL standings, some breakout players, some stud players, some dud players, both on the field and in your fantasy lineups. I'm your host, Justin Palizzi. You can follow me on Twitter at easypalizzi_21. You can follow our podcast page at J&J Talk Sports on both Instagram and Twitter. You can also email us at jnjtalksports@gmail.com for any questions, concerns, comments, and or future topics you would like for us to discuss. Joining me this week, like every other week, one of my two overly large size co-hosts, Lyle. How's it going, buddy?
Yeet, yeet. What up, boys? Again, as always, it's your boy Lyle Style. You can follow me at LYLESSTYLE. It's going to be a fun one because, as with most predictions of most people, everyone got almost everything wrong, and it's going to be a great time calling each other out because some people are super prideful, some people are very spiteful, and then some people are Nick. Nick, how are you doing today?
What do you mean some people, Nick? Nah, I'm doing great. We're going to have a really, really fun episode today, going over our fantasy picks, going over our awards preseason. Again, you guys can follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at StefanoN.51. That's STEPHANOUN 51. And today we have a special guest. Matt, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey guys, it's Matt Kigler again. You can find me on Twitter at KiglerMatt. Thanks again for having me on, guys.
Well, thanks again for joining us, Matt. It's only right that we did the NFL midseason recap, both on and off the field, like I said, with your fantasy football, and joining us today. Yeah, so just if you guys are listening or watching on YouTube, so Nick started off this podcast with a Scully Jets hat and then a Jets sweater. It's way too hot in his house. I give it like another 30 minutes before the shirt comes off.
That's overselling it, maybe 15.
Yeah, so I want to start off with some news and notes. As we all know, the NFL trade deadline was on October 30th. I believe it was 4 p.m., fellas, if I'm not mistaken. One thing that we all kind of predicted and we all knew, Le'Veon Bell was not going to show up a minute before 4 o'clock. He didn't show up a minute after either. But that's because if you would have signed his franchise tag, the Steelers would have had the option to trade him. So he doesn't show up. And we are 2 days past that. He still hasn't shown up. Redskins acquired Clinton Dix from the Green Bay Packers for a 2019 4th-round pick. Rams get Dante Fowler from the Jacksonville Jaguars for a 2019 3rd-round pick and a 2020 5th-round pick. The reason why they made that move was because they lost Robert Quinn for the rest of the season due to injury. Ravens acquired Ty Montgomery from the Green Bay Packers for a 2020 7th-round pick. Eagles get Golden Tate from the Detroit Lions for a 2019 3rd. And then the Texans, I consider this a big trade. Texans get Demaryius Thomas and a 2019 7th-round pick from the Broncos for a 2019 4th and a 2019 7th. Matt, I'll swing it to you here first. Which of these moves did you like the most, and which one do you think would make the team actually better?
So, from a fantasy perspective, I think this definitely helps Golden Tate. I like this one the most for him because I know that Nelson Aguilar has been super good in the slot for Philadelphia, but nobody is probably as good as Golden Tate in the slot. And especially with a pass heavy offense like the Eagles, I think there will be plenty to go around for him to maintain his value. And that's the one that I was most high on in terms of fantasy. I don't see anything helping Demaryius Thomas at this point. The guy can barely move. He drops more than he catches anymore. I just don't necessarily know what Houston was thinking trying to get involved with him.
Lyle, do you think the Eagles paying the Eagles paying a third round pick of this year, 2019 third round pick this year for a 30-year-old Golden Tate who is off the books next year and a free agent? Do you think that was too high of a price to pay?
Absolutely not. Golden Tate's a proven receiver. He's a proven playmaker. He catches balls. And as Matt was saying, Nelson Aguilar is garbage. No way around it. Golden Tate gives you a tried and true receiver for Carson Wentz to throw to, and I think it's a fair price for a team that is trying to win now. Again, this is a team that doesn't want to fall into that Super Bowl hangover pit. This is a team that wants to make the playoffs. This is a team that feels like they can continue to win now.
Nick, what about you? What did you think about any of these moves particularly?
No, I love the Golden Tate acquisition. Nelson Aguilar, I mean, he had a pretty good season last year. I think he had about 800 receiving yards, but he hasn't really been cutting it next to Alshon Jeffries. And when Alshon Jeffries went down beginning of the season, Nelson Aguilar just didn't show up. Golden Tate has been a 1,000-yard receiver the last 2 years. He's been, I think, close to 100 receptions each of those 2 years. And like Matt said, he's one of the best slot receivers in the league. He gives Wentz that extra weapon. Wentz loves to air out the ball. I think he will help the Eagles tremendously, and they are in that win now mentality. I also want to pitch in. I do like that the Texans went out and got Demaryius Thomas. He's not going to fill the role of Will Fuller, but they are in need of another receiver. He is going to, I think, excel a little bit more than he did in Denver. But again, I do like both his acquisitions, and I think it were great moves by both teams.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move on here for the NFL predictions here. And previous, when we did the NFL preview, these were our predictions. And we're going to start off with the AFC East. Matt, knowing that you're a Patriots fan, I'm pretty sure before the season started, you had them winning the division. And no surprise here, both Nick, Lyle, and myself all had the Patriots winning this division before the season started as well. We're 8 weeks through. Matt, do you think the Patriots still hold on to this division as they get in first place and eventually win it?
Yeah, because I think you're starting to see their defense really starting to round out into form as they usually do. And with teams having to play from behind against New England most of the time and Stephon Gilmore playing at an all-pro level, I don't think you're going to be able to play catch-up with them.
Nick, what about you? Do you think the Miami Dolphins are going to continue this surprisingly start to the season? And they lost 2 in a row. They started off the season 4-2. But do you think at 4-4 in this AFC East, they can either make a push against the Patriots for the division, or at least try to push for a wild card position?
No, I don't think so. I think that the Patriots are going to run away with this division. And again, the Dolphins are starting Brock Osweiler at the moment. We all know he's not a top tier quarterback. I don't see them winning many games going forward. I think the surprising start is going to stay a surprise, and they're going to hit a decline real soon.
And Nick, I'm going to let I'm going to let you speak on about the Jets, but I want Lyle to chime in on here. Lyle, your Jets are 3-5 to start the season. They lost 2 in a row, and which looked like a promising 3-3 start to begin the season. You guys have a negative 8-point differential, 192 points scored. That's the second highest in the division. And you guys also allow the second highest points in the division. What are your thoughts on the Jets so far this season?
They are who we thought they were. They're young. They're getting it together. It's a rookie quarterback. It is what it is. I don't even know why we're bothering talking about the AFC. It's a wrap. The Pats already have it locked up. we move on to something more interesting for the love of God?
We definitely can. That's going to be the AFC North. And Nick, I apologize. Forget it. Lau kind of pretty much just
No, it's
kicked you to
fine.
the
I mean,
curb.
he said what it is. The Jets are going through growing pains. We're dealing with so many injuries. We have a rookie quarterback who's still going through the motions and learning the system. Were there games in the past that we should have won? I think so. But again, rookie quarterback, not too much help around him at the moment. It's tough to see how this season's going to end going forward.
That's the nicest way to say that your team's trash I've ever heard.
Oh my God, the Patriots fan. No.
No, let's push forward because I'll fly over to the West Coast and I will
gladly join you in the West Coast.
So we got the AFC North up here next, and it was a clean sweep again. We all predicted, by all I mean both Nick, Lyle, and I. Matt, who did you have before the season winning this division?
For the AFC North,
Yes.
I was going with Cincinnati.
So you were going with Cincinnati from the beginning of the season.
Yeah, I'm totally anti-Steelers, and I feel like, especially with Marvin Jones, with all the stuff surrounding him and him coming back, maybe there's a little extra motivation. You saw that they took care of that defensive line beforehand with all the contracts, so I felt like there was some extra motivation to get something done.
Yeah, so the three of us had the Steelers as a clean sweep. The Steelers did start off the year slow with a 1-2-1 record with a tie to the Cleveland Browns. They won 3 straight. They're 4-2-1. They're sitting on top of the division. They gained first place back last week when they were on bye, when the Ravens, Browns, and Bengals all lost. Lyle, who do you think is going to win this division ultimately?
The Steelers. The fact that their coach came back and they still have the most average quarterback of all time in the Red Rocket, Andy Dalton. I'm sorry. We've seen this year after year from the Bengals. They try. It's cute, but they're average. They will continue to be average. They will forever be average with the same average staff and the same average squad being average. And it's cute. Every year we see it. Every year it's cute.
I got it. Butt in there. I got to butt in there, buddy, because I'm looking at their schedule right now, and the best thing that they have going for them is they have no more primetime games this year. They have 6 winnable games on the schedule the rest of the season.
I was looking at that too just now.
And they're gonna lose to the Saints, but they have a chance in the division in Baltimore. They're gonna beat the Browns both times. They have a chance against Denver. They'll probably lose against the Chargers, beat the Raiders, and then I always feel like they have a chance to beat Pittsburgh.
So it'll probably come down. So that they play.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Steelers in week 17.
It could.
I was gonna agree with Lyle. I would probably go with the Steelers to come out the division, but I was gonna mention, do you think it comes down to Steelers Bengals week 17?
Well, it's looking like that because the Bengals are still 1 up in the win column against the Steelers. So the win percentage isn't there because they got the extra loss, but it damn well could. Nick, I want to get your thoughts on the Baltimore Ravens before we move on to the next division. They're 4-4 to start. They've allowed the second lowest amount of points this season with 137. That's 10 points more allowed than the lowest allowed, which is the Tennessee Titans, but they played one less game. So technically speaking, I think after this week and Baltimore gets their bye, they'll probably be sitting as the number 1 defense in football. Do you think the Ravens defense and the way that Joe Flacco has been playing on a contract year, the Ravens could somewhat make a push or just be another 9-7 season for them?
I mean, coming to the season, I thought the Ravens would be a lot better. Again, I'm a Michael Crabtree owner in fantasy. That offense has been very mediocre, and I don't see them being able to outscore a lot of teams. I think that might come down to an issue going forward, and the fact that they have to pretty much outplay the Steelers and the Bengals going forward, it's going to be pretty tough for them to even get a wild card in the AFC.
Yeah, I don't think they have a shot at the wild card. 'Cause I do think the Bengals do make a good push for the Steelers, and I'm not saying it'll probably come down to that week 17 because I still don't believe in Andy Dalton and Marvin Lewis and that Bengals team. But that's just me. So we're gonna move on to a very, very interesting division here. We have the AFC South, which is led by the Houston Texans with a 5-3 record. Titans are 3-4. Jaguars and Colts are 3-5. It was a clean sweep from us, thinking that the Jaguars were going to repeat as division winners. Nick did go on record and say that he does see the Houston Texans going ahead and taking a wild card spot. So with that said, Nick, do you still think that's the case, or do you think Houston runs away with the division?
I mean, it's pretty surprising to see the Jaguars at 3-5. But then again, I've always said that without Leonard Fournette, the Jaguars really aren't that good offensively. Bortles, I think, is not a good quarterback, even the slightest. And it's shown. They benched him. They benched him last game, right? Like Bortles.
Yeah, not the last game, the week before.
Or 2 games ago, yes. So it's still surprising to see them at 3-5. Their defense is phenomenal, but pretty impressed with the Houston Texans. They've been playing well. Deshaun Watson's been playing pretty well. It sucks to see that Will Fuller is out for the year. I'm watching him that game. I was texting you guys in the group chat. He's a phenomenal player. His routes are crisp. He's very fast. But going forward with the addition of Demaryius Thomas, I think the Houston Texans. By the way, J.J. Watt's playing pretty amazing too. Comeback player of the year. But but I think if the Houston's could possibly run away with the division.
Matt, I'm going to swing it to you here. So I see that on the note sheet that you put the Houston Texans are going to win the division, and I agree with you there. But what I want to ask you is, last year we had a wild card team from this division, which was the Tennessee Titans. This year they're sitting at 3-4. They already had their bye week. Jacksonville Jaguars are also at 3-5, as well as the Colts. I don't think the Colts make a push for a wild card, but between these two teams, the Titans and the Jaguars, I do believe one of these two teams will ultimately be one of the wild card teams in the AFC. Who do you think edges out the other?
So
if you think any of the two will make the wild card.
I think, let's see here. I'm trying to look at the divisions. I don't think 2 teams out of this one make it.
Okay.
Because looking at it, I think the West and the North are going to be the ones that put 2 in. But if I was going to choose and somehow the other teams collapsed, I think it would have to be the Jaguars, just because I believe in defense. And even though theirs has dropped off really bad, they're trying to get their groove back. I feel like if anybody's going to make it, it's going to be them, because the Tennessee offense is so bad.
Right. La, am I looking at this correctly? Are you picking the Jags to still win the division?
I can't give up on my man AJ Bouye. I can't give up on Jalen Ramsey. I can't give up on Ngakoue.
You just name the names.
I just can't give up on them. They have a very easy schedule. They have to play the Colts twice, who they're okay.
Excuse me.
They don't have very difficult games coming up, and they have a big game again. They play the Houston Texans in the last game of the season. Look at the schedules. It is a very good chance they could be close on record. It is a very good chance that game could decide the division. I can't write off the Jaguars yet. I do think they are at least defensively more talented. Offensively, they get Carlos Hyde recently. I think that hopefully solves a little bit of their running issues with all their injuries. I can't write them off. I still have to stick with the Jaguars, as much as I'm going to get ripped on it for the end of the season.
That's very interesting. If the Jaguars and the Houston Texans play Week 17, and you got the Bengals and the Steelers playing Week 17, that you have basically 4 teams who will all be fighting for either position and or wild card spots in Week 17, which is good, because it's very rare where you see a very meaningful Week 17 game. So we're gonna go ahead here into the AFC West. It was also a clean sweep by us, thinking that the Chargers were going to win the division. Matt, who did you have winning the division before the year started?
So before the year, I was thinking it was actually going to be the Broncos, because I was actually thinking that Case Keenum was not going to play like the Rams version of Case Keenum. So that was my pre-season prediction, and I wasn't totally sold on Mahomes. Now that totally is egg on my face, because Mahomes is playing out of his mind.
You're not the only one.
Yeah, so Lyle went on the NFL preview episode, and we all, the 3 of us, did all take the Chargers. But me and Nick both said that, the Chargers are going to win, but it's going to be a closer division than what Lyle stated. Lyle said the Chargers were going to win by a mile, that they were going to run all over the division, that young Patrick Mahomes, with all his weapons, weren't going to do anything. But nonetheless, he still predicted the Chargers to win a division. And even though all of us were technically wrong. The Chargers are still sitting there with a very good record of 5-2, second in the division, and third, I believe, in the all of AFC.
And let's not forget that the Chiefs came out to a very hot start last year too, and they kind of petered off and squeaked by with a division victory.
Well, they had Alex Smith, not Patrick Mahomes.
I'm just letting you know. Again, Andy Reid still exists. He can throw away a game or two. As much as he's an excellent coach, as much as he took Patrick Mahomes, took all of his skills and talents, and
So you're
really
double downing.
and built an offense that Mahomes has more than succeeded in. He has amazed. Don't get me wrong. No, I'm saying Patrick Mahomes has been excellent.
I'm not talking about Mahomes. So you're double downing. You still think the Chargers are going to win the
I
division?
still think the Chargers still get through because Andy Reid's clock management skills still exist.
Nick?
The Chiefs are going to run away with this division. I was
by
huge.
a mile.
By a mile. No, not by a mile. The Chargers will win games going forward, but that Chiefs offense is unstoppable. I mean, I was one of those Patrick Mahomes doubters as well, but it's just watching the kid play. He's like a seasoned pro. He barely makes any mistakes. I think he's thrown one pick.
No,
all year.
he's thrown 7 picks.
Oh,
I'm sorry,
picks?
six picks this season. 6 picks this season.
Well, nonetheless,
26 touchdowns, 6 picks, a 115.3
26
rating,
6. The dude is amazing.
2,500 passing yards.
He's done enough crazy things that we just forget about the picks because he's busy dodging 15 defenders.
No, yeah, he's amazing. I love Melvin Gordon. I love Phillip Rivers, but Patrick Mahomes in that offense just seems unstoppable.
Matt, what are your thoughts on Mahomes? I know you didn't predict the breakout, but just watching him and the way he's able to dissect the defense, he's scrambling outside the pocket, like Lyle said, dodging defenders. He's chucking the ball down the field. We saw in the preseason the 2 bombs he threw to Tyreek Hill, and we're all here sitting thinking that's all it's going to come down to. But he's made a lot of players on that team, and I speak from a fantasy perspective, he's made a lot of people on that team fantasy relevant. What do you think has been so positive for the success of Patrick Mahomes so far this season?
I'd probably say first and foremost Andy Reid. Andy Reid is the huge reason why he's successful.
Quarterback whisperer.
Yeah, and the fact that he does have a history around a Brett Favre, who seems to be very similar in the gunslinging, but that was what I didn't see happening was his poise in the pocket. I didn't see him be able to make the short intermediate throws, the checkdowns, because I didn't think he'd have the patience. And he's really proving that he's willing to take, a Kareem Hunt, dump off, or the RPO to Travis Kelce 5 yards out. That's what I didn't see happening.
Right. And so we're going to go ahead and move over to the NFC now. And unfortunately, we have to talk about the NFC East, the division in which my Giants sit at 1-7 in what has been yet again another disappointing season led by Eli Manning, the terrible offensive line, Pat Shurmur, who has, I believe, less than 10 wins in his career as both a Browns and Giants starter. But here we are, Redskins sit at top 5-2, Philly 4-4, Cowboys 3-4. To start off with the season, Lyle predicted that the Eagles would win. I predicted that the Cowboys would win. Nick predicted that the Giants would win. And to second Nick's prediction, I did think that the Giants would compete and or maybe get into a wild card. So, Matt, I'm guessing you probably were the smarter one between Nick and I, and you probably predicted that the Eagles would win this division ultimately.
Yeah, I thought Philly, just because the fact that they won everything without their best player. I thought, they'd be a shoo-in. The fact that they haven't, and I wasn't expecting the Washington defense to look as good, as well as Adrian Peterson to never age.
Right.
Like, those are the 2 things I didn't really see. I thought Alex Smith was going to do exactly what he's doing, but Adrian Peterson's really making that offense go, and I'm just surprised that Washington's has 2 losses only.
Yeah, and I kind of have to change subjects really quickly here. I'm watching a Thursday night football game, and Martavis Bryant just did something that really, really annoys me. You're losing 31-3. The third quarter is just about to end. You catch a 15-yard pass, and you stand up, hype, point the ball forward, drop it, and wave your hand that you just got a first down. Do these players not know game situation? This has to be the reason why Martavius Bryant is not only a Oakland Raider, but goes from team to team?
This is why John Gruden, everyone wants to play for him. No matter what, you're having fun. Everybody wants to play for John Gruden.
How much money has he
How
made
much
so
is
far?
it? Yeah.
Oh, by the way, this podcast is sponsored by isgrudenoutyet.com. And since we've started, John Gruden he's only made $31.
That's because you need to be on the tab.
Oh, you do have to be on the tab. My bad. So he's made $31 in the last 30 seconds. My bad.
Okay, so back to our scheduled program. I do think the Eagles do come out on top of this division based on how this season's turning out. After predicting that the Cowboys were going to win, I expected to see better things from Michael Gallup. I expected to see better things from Dak. Dak has proven to be the inconsistent quarterback that most of us had predicted, especially Nick. I know Nick has hard feelings against Dak, calling him an overrated quarterback. So I do think the Eagles did suffer from a little bit of a Super Bowl hangover to start the season, but and then giving up the 21 points in the fourth quarter to lose to the Panthers at home didn't help much. But I do think they're clicking, and I do think they ultimately overshoot the Redskins and take the NFC East. Now, Lyle, I'll swing it to you here. Do you think the Redskins sitting at 5-2? They already had their bye week. They had an early bye week, a very, very early bye week. They had bye week 4, if I'm not mistaken. So they're basically going and playing 13 straight games into the playoffs if they even make it. Do you think they can make it as a wild card based off of how the other divisions are panning out?
No, I don't see them making it as a wild card. I am surprised Adrian Peterson has reverted. Again, he's still not as fast as he once was, as we saw in that long touchdown run. But I just don't see the Redskins continuing this play. Eagles, I have the Eagles winning the division in the beginning. I have the Eagles still winning the division. But I do think the NFC South, they contain possibly 2 wild cards. In the NFC North, a couple of good teams. There's too many good teams, and I don't know if the Redskins can keep this up. I'm not saying there's no chance. I'm just saying I'm not confident enough to say for show.
So, Nick, you going Eagles as well?
That's a little tough, but if I had to pick one, I probably would go with the Eagles. Plus, with the addition of Golden Tate, I think that offense is going to be a lot better. I also want to see how Amari Cooper plays with the Cowboys. As a Amari Cooper fantasy owner, I'm hoping that this will spark him somehow. I know Dak Prescott has been lacking a solid receiver, so I'm hoping Amari Cooper could give him a little bit more of a push.
Right. So we're going to go ahead and talk about the NFC North here. We all agreed before the season started that this was probably going to be the toughest division. Nick took the Packers to win the division. Lau took the Vikings, with quote-unquote stating that the Packers were going to collapse and be last in the division. And I went ahead and predicted that the Vikings were going to be 1 and the Packers were going to be 2nd. Matt, I'll start off with you here first. Let us know who you thought was going to win the division before the season started. And based off what you saw the first 8 weeks, who do you think is going to ultimately win the NFC North?
So I picked Vikings because I was all over the Kirk Cousins hype train.
Oh.
But now I'm going to stick with the Vikings, but I'm not confident in that because I feel like anybody in that division could win it, which is really weird because I definitely wasn't believing Chicago, and I wasn't confident in Matt Patricia being able to take a team in year 1 to the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't believe in Matt Patricia either. I believe we all had the Lions last in this division, if I'm not mistaken. The Bears are surprising for me too. I did predict Mitchell Trubisky turning the corner this year, but sitting at 4-3 on top of the division, scoring 3 points less than the Vikings overall, and having played 1 less game, that's pretty good. And they also allowed 144 points, which is by far the least in their division. Lyle, who do you have taking the NFC North? Do you still have the Packers collapsing, and do you still have the Vikings winning it?
So, yes, I do still have the Packers collapsing. They got rid of even more talent. With the lack of talent they already had, they got rid of even more of it.
Hockman and Dix.
The Packers are doing what the Packers do. I still have the Vikings winning, but the next 4 games for the Vikings are when we're going to know if they're for real. It's Lions, Bears, Packers, Patriots. These 4, I still have the Vikings. If they make it out of there 3-1, they're winning this division, especially if those 3 wins are against their division opponents. I think, again, they're all winnable games, but we all know the Packers. Aaron Rodgers is the most talented quarterback in the league.
Nick, you took the Packers to win this division. I want you to tell me at the ending of the week 17, the last game is played, whether it be Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football, whatever the case may be. Give me the top 4 in this division, starting from the team that wins it to the team that comes in last.
I'll probably go Vikings to win it. I'm gonna give Aaron Rodgers the respect he deserves. Aaron Rodgers will come in second. Bears and Lions.
So you're taking 2 teams from this division to make the playoffs, or you're just taking 1?
I think I go with 2 teams in this division. I think the Vikings and whoever comes in second in this division will get a wild card bid. I think easily.
So Matt, you mentioned before that you got caught on the Kirk Cousins hype train, and so did I. I loved him a lot for my fantasy teams this year, as well as what he could do for that Vikings offense. Now, offensively, they do look better. They do look better as a team with Kirk Cousins there. I'm a little shocked, though, as to why he can't seem to get Kyle Rudolph as involved as he has in the past with his tight ends. What do you make of that? Is it more so that Thielen and Diggs are just such dominant receivers, and Kirk Cousins has never had receivers like that before, which is why he has, pretty much attacked the tight end position, or just more so the talent of Rudolph just mostly being a red zone guy?
So I would probably go with the Rudolph red zone theory more. But there's one thing I'm kicking myself with, and that was at the beginning of the year when we were going over the the division previews, and when we were talking about the Vikings. And I was the only one to think Adam Thielen was the guy to own. And then
that is true.
As the preseason went on, I was like, oh no, he has so much rapport with Diggs that I jumped off of Thielen to go after Diggs in a lot of fantasy leagues. And now everything I thought about Kirk Cousins came true. Kirk Cousins made Jamison Crowder what he is because he lined up in the slot. Thielen's the slot receiver, and now he's killing it. That is the one thing I'm kicking myself most for. But I do think it's the offense. I think that the offense is saying our top 2 players are, Diggs, Thielen. I feel like what surprises me in the fact that Rudolph's not more involved is that Cook's not healthy, because I would think that they would try to use Rudolph more in the flat to get him those dump offs, since Cook isn't there to take him.
He's actually played better when Cook was in the lineup, which is weird. It was the complete opposite of what you just said, and you would think it would be reversed. When Cook is not there, Rudolph will be in the flats. That hook little curl in the middle for the safety valve.
More of a safety valve, yeah.
Yeah, it hasn't been that way. La, I want you to go ahead, and I'm going to give you some shine here to talk about your alma mater, your boy Khalil Mack. What has he been able to do so far and making that Chicago Bears defense basically the number 1 defense, if it's not the Ravens, but the number 1 defense in football as well as in fantasy football?
So Khalil Mack, if you guys don't know, is an absolute.
I'm giving you some time. Go ahead. I know you're looking for stats.
Oh no, I was typing something else. All right.
Go ahead whenever you're ready. Just cut this out.
Khalil Mack is an absolute terror. We knew this. When Gruden traded away all of his picks, in the hopes of getting a pass rusher, a once-in-a-generation pass rusher like Khalil Mack, it might have been one of the dumbest trades in history, ranging all the way back from Babe Ruth being traded to the Yankees. I think maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I think it is that big of a mistake. He is a disruptor. He's one of the best pure pass rushers. He can go out in coverage. Again, in his 6 games, his stats aren't huge. He's got 5 sacks, 4 forced fumbles, 1 fumble recovery, 1 interception, and a TD. This was a defensive end linebacker hybrid. He's drawing double teams. He's drawing triple teams. He has completely changed the way the secondary has to play. When you have such an elite pass rusher, you can put your secondary in single coverage and send extra people because the quarterback's going to have a second less to throw. Khalil Mack did what we all knew he has been doing, and he continues to do, and as we all predicted, has transformed this Bears team into a contender. And it's not just, Trubisky playing well. This defense is huge, and as we all know, defense wins championships.
And if anybody wants to see a once-in-a-generation talent, just watch Khalil Mack against the Packers. It was game 1 of the season, where he had an interception, forced fumble, a touchdown. He can show you that he can single-handedly change the game. He can change the pace of the game. Even though the Packers did come back with that amazing win, Khalil Mack just showed his pass rushing abilities, his coverage abilities, tackling abilities. He's just a phenomenal football player. It's unreal.
We're going to go ahead and move over here to the NFC South. Nick, Lyle, both picked the Saints to win the division, with the Falcons coming in a close second and saying that the Panthers would not make the playoffs. I also predicted that the Saints would win the division. I do not recall where I predicted everybody else. The reason I believe we all dropped the ball here because I had the Panthers winning the division, not the Saints. Therefore, I'm so far wrong. The Saints are first in the division. And as Nick and Lyle both predicted the Saints would win the division, you guys predicted that the Falcons would be a close second. And yes, due to all the injuries on the defensive side of the ball and quote-unquote Calvin Ridley not living up to his potential as a wide receiver and helping out that offense more consistently because he did have a few big games, the Falcons are not a close second to the Saints. And listen, it's only 8 games in. But Matt, I'll swing it to you here first. I'm pretty sure you were all on that NOLA train, Drew Brees, Saints, Kamara, that defense taking a big step last year. I'm pretty sure you had them winning the division before the season started. Has that changed your mind since?
No, not at all. And after the first couple of weeks when they were having to do, pretty good defense, Drew Brees slinging the ball to keep up, I was a little concerned, but I never feel like the Panthers are ever going to be good. And I don't know if it's just because I don't like Cam Newton, as a person, but I just didn't think that. I never think the Panthers are going to be the front runner of the division, and that. But they consistently just keep coming in, and I was thinking, that their record was a lot worse after the the Redskins lost, but then they actually are only 1 game behind the Saints right now. And it's that's just frustrating to me because I just don't like them.
Lyle, what do you make of the Panthers? And I know, so just for the listeners so they know, both Nick and Lyle and myself as well, we're all thinking that the Saints, we're all going to agree with Matt here and think that the Saints are going to ultimately win this division. But Lyle, what do you think about your boy Cam Newton heading into Philadelphia against the team that you think is going to win the NFC East in Philly and coming back from a 17-0 point deficit in the fourth quarter and winning 21-17 against the defending Super Bowl champs? Is that just another Cam Newton moment, or do you actually think the Panthers are better than what you predicted to be this year?
So that's the thing. Again, Matt hit the nail square on the head on that. They never feel like a good team. They always look like they're eking out ugly wins that they have no business winning. It's fluky. It feels wrong that they win. And it's nothing. I don't have a personal grudge against the Panthers or Scam Newton. It's a nickname I like to give him. But they don't feel like a good team. They never feel like a good team. They just eke out these ugly wins. But that's what it takes to win consistently in the football league. You got to win ugly. I do think the Eagles take him down. I do think the Eagles are a better team. Not just with the eye test. I think they have more. And, but most likely, Scam Newton, the Panthers, are going to eke out some ugly, disgusting win that they have no business having. And that's where it is.
Nick, what about you? What are your thoughts on this division? Are you surprised at all that the Falcons? Well, I know you're not surprised that the Falcons are. You are surprised that the Falcons are at the lower part of the division, but I want to ask you about Tampa Bay now. So coming into the NFL, you were a Mariota supporter, and I was a famous Jameis supporter. The Bucks benched Jameis Winston against the Browns 2 weeks ago, last week, and they announced Fitzpatrick as the starter for Week 9. What are your thoughts on the Buccaneers going forward as a team? Now, they're not going to win this division. They're not going to compete for any games going forward. Do you think that they stick with Jameis after this year?
Well, clearly, Ryan Fitzpatrick's not going to be their quarterback long term or going forward. I'm not talking about the ending of this season. I'm talking about going the next year and going forward. Now, do they keep Jameis Winston? I personally never liked him as a quarterback. Even when he played at Florida State, he did win the championship there. I never liked Jameis Winston. The character issues were there. I didn't think he was that talented, to be honest. Do they keep him? I would hope not. I don't like Jameis Winston at all.
So I actually don't. I mean, it's kind of hard because I like Jameis. I think a change of scenery would do good for him. So ultimately, I will hope he does leave the Bucks. Bucks are going to look like they're going to have a high draft pick this season, especially if teams that have no business in even being good, like the Broncos or the Browns or the Redskins or even the Arizona Cardinals, who have 2 wins somehow. As long as teams like that are going to continue to win and the Tampa Bay Bucks continue to lose and be a basically a below average team, they will be sitting with a high draft pick, maybe take a quarterback, and then I do see them bringing back Fitzpatrick and using him as the bridge between the next franchise quarterback. Also think they need to get rid of that whole coaching staff. If you ask me.
It's just so funny. Fitzmagic's career is, all right, I'm going to go here. I'm going to back up some young quarterback. Oh, he's awful. Let me put up an amazing year, but just barely miss the playoffs, getting me a huge contract. Oh, no, I'm cut. I'm going to go back up. Oh, look, another quarterback going down. Let me take his job for a year and then do – it's the Fitzmagic cycle. You never bet against Fitzmagic on a contract year. We should have all seen this coming. Every single person should have known this would be Fitzmagic's job by week 8, and it is.
So we're going to take it to the NFC West, the last division we're going to be discussing. And I wouldn't say surprise that the Rams are sitting on top of this division, as I believe all 4 of us did predict them to win this division. But Matt, are we surprised that they're sitting at 8-0 and basically the best and most dominant team in the NFL so far?
Yeah, I would definitely say that. I'm surprised that they're undefeated because I'm really surprised at 2 things. I'm surprised that their offense looks basically as good as it did last year, if not better. And I think a lot of that has to do with, year 2, right? We always see those jumps, but also how they're using like Brandon Cooks. He's being used differently than he was in either New Orleans or New England. Another surprise to me is actually how average that defense has looked in the secondary. And I know Talib's hurt, but Marcus Peters is like sucks this year. Some
of the rumors about how he was kind of losing a step in Kansas City are actually like coming to fruition now. You kind of see that with the Rams.
Yeah, it's been really bad, and it's I just don't think that his playing style works. I think it should with that pass rush, but he's such a ball hawk and like loves to jump routes that, all it takes is Adams giving him a little, I'm going to curl and just take off on you for 50 yards. Like, that's going to happen to him everywhere he goes, at least twice a game.
What about you, Nick? What are your thoughts on this division so far? Like I said, we all did a clean sweep at the Rams, the start of the season. But is it surprising to you that the Rams are 8-0? And what do you think has been the biggest success for them so far to be at this point?
I mean, I'm not surprised. I mean, as far as being undefeated, it's hard to undefeated. Are they going to go 16-0? Who knows? But I'm not surprised that they're on top of this division. Other than maybe San Fran being something before, what's his name? The quarterback.
Garoppolo?
Jimmy Garoppolo, that's right. Before Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt, we all thought that they would be a better team than they are. Obviously, 1-7 doesn't give them justice. But those Los Angeles Rams, their offense is completely stacked. Their defense is amazing. It just got better with adding off Dante Fowler Jr. It's Todd. I wanted to center it around Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley is just a phenomenal player, which I also believe he should get a running for MVP. Even though, as a running back, it's going to be damn near impossible with 2 or 3 quarterbacks in the running. But they're so good, and Jared Goff has taken that next step to be even better. I think they'll probably end up going undefeated the whole year. I don't know if you guys agree or not, but
it's gonna be hard. I mean, the Packers had them. Packers had them at home. I mean, basically in LA, the Packers had a chance to really come back with 2 minutes left, and Ty Montgomery thinks the same thing he did in college, I believe. Lyle, so I'm not going to ask you a question about the NFC West because it's just going to be repetitive. I want to ask you a question about the whole NFC as a whole. Do you think that the Rams ultimately finish on top as the number 1 seed in the NFC? Now they still got to play the Saints. So what do you make of this?
Again, yeah, as you were saying, I was going to get to their coming up schedule. They have the Saints, the Chiefs as their 2 biggest games, as well as the Eagles are their 3 biggest games left. In the NFC, I do think they come out as the number 1 seed because the other team. The other team that is going to compete for it is the Saints, and they still have a tough schedule. They're going to get played very hard, whereas the Rams are in one of the weakest divisions in the entire NFL, and the 49ers and Cardinals are pushovers. And the Saints outside, they play the Rams, but they also have to play Panthers, Falcons, and Bucks, who are all going to play them much tougher than the 49ers and Cardinals are going to play the Rams.
Did they go into the playoffs as the team to beat?
Absolutely. They are the team to beat in the NFC. They know it. It's Wade Phillips' defense, Sean McVay's offense. It's hard to go on.
Matt, you want a rebuttal? Because basically, if it's not the Rams, the team to beat, it'll most likely be the Patriots.
Well, okay, so the Rams will be the team to beat, and I think even after New England beating Kansas City, I still don't think people believe New England can beat Kansas City if they have to go to Kansas City.
I don't think so either. I actually made that statement today. I said even though the Patriots beat Kansas City, I think the Patriots are in line for a very, very hard game if they have to travel to Kansas City to play that game.
I think they could win it, but I think it'll be really hard.
Right.
One thing I want to hit on, though, about the Rams is there's one game on that schedule that's kind of being overlooked. December 9th. So they're going West Coast. They're changing time zones. They're going to Chicago. In Chicago, early game.
Ooh.
Khalil Mack could be healthy. So I'm just saying, if in a cold December day in Chicago with a healthy defense, Rams could be a trap game for them.
And if there is one man who can take over a game, it's the University of Buffalo product. Your boy, my boy, everyone's boy, Khalil Mack.
Except Gruden. That's not Gruden's boy.
Oh, speaking of John Gruden, I have been keeping the timer up, and since we last checked, John Gruden has made $479.
Wow. Nick, any last final thoughts on these division outcomes of the first 8 weeks of the NFL season?
Nothing that we haven't mentioned already. Los Angeles Rams on top. I think the teams to beat would be the Rams. Going to the playoffs would be the Rams and the Kansas City Chiefs. Even though the Patriots did beat them, I would love to see a rematch between the two of them, Chiefs and Patriots. But going to the playoffs, I think those are the two teams to beat. And
Awesome. So we're gonna have a little fun here. We're gonna call each other out on some predictions that we made so far, and we kind of did that a little bit here thus far. Nick, I'll leave it off with you here first. So based off these division winners and or people that we predicted to lose, what atrocious comments or predictions that were made by one of us, whether it be Matt, Lyle, or myself, that you want to call us out on, whether it be how wrong we were or how dumb we were to make a pick, and or that you can't believe we went against, a player or a team in which we love.
I kind of recall you saying, or Lyle can maybe like refresh my memory. Didn't well, not even the Breeze part. Didn't you say something about the Browns defense were going to be like top 2 or 3 in like fantasy?
Save that, because save that for that's I'm talking about the predictions of the team. Save that for fantasy.
Yeah.
Wait, so what do you want me to say?
The season stuff.
I'm talking about regular season records and stuff.
Oh, my bad.
I did that for fantasy, so you could call me.
I thought we were just like.
Fantasy.
All right, ready, Nick?
We're doing it twice. We're doing it for like actual predictions on.
Right, so I'll shit on myself. I'll shit on myself. I said the Giants going to win the division.
How about this, Lyle? Cut all this out.
Yeah, of course.
And I'll do it after we do players. Because maybe you guys could shit on me about the Hugh Jackson part.
All right, so let's.
Or I could just say that me and you said the Giants are going to win the division.
No, let's do players and then shit on that.
Okay, cool. Ready?
Anything goes.
Okay, but keep my introduction. My introduction was good. I don't think I could do it as good again. All right. So I want to. So now we did the divisions. I want to go ahead and do some of the award predictions. And after we do our award predictions, we're gonna play a little game, a little fun game, and we're also going to do our final predictions of the Super Bowl contenders, players, teams, and then the winner. So to begin the season, we'll start off with the most improved player. Matt, who did you have becoming the most improved player for the 2018 NFL season?
My most improved player I thought of, just from a pure football stance, was I thought TJ Watt, because I really just think he has the talent to be just like JJ. And I think he's doing all right. I haven't been paying too much attention.
His stats have been very similar to his brother, so you definitely were right on that one. Nick, your most improved player, you predicted that would be Derrick Henry. How's that one panning out?
Not good, Justin. Not good. I did think that he was going to get a bigger role there. That offense just hasn't been playing that well, so
they can't run the ball.
Yeah, they can't run the ball at all.
They can't run the ball at all. And
with him or Dion Lewis, just. Do I think
now last year he did get better as the season got on. Do you think that would be the same outcome this year, or do you just think that he's not going to improve as a running back?
I just don't see that offense in general improving. Mariota is not playing extremely well. Derrick Henry hasn't shown much really. I think Dion Lewis had a good couple games last 2 weeks, but that offense in general just hasn't been impressive at all.
Right. Lyle, your most improved player was Julian Davenport.
Yikes.
Lyle,
Yikes town, bro.
Before you even elaborate on why you picked him and what's going on with him in the first 8 weeks, who the heck is Julian Davenport?
Julian Davenport is a second-year offensive lineman. Again, everyone likes to pick their skill position, and nobody gives enough love to the big men, the men in the trenches, and I wanted to give them some love. And this is where I did it, and yikes, did I pick the wrong player. Woo! He has led up the most pass pressures in the entire NFL. Again, it's only 8 weeks. He's got time. He's still not as bad as Eric Flowers, because at least he still gets playing time.
I shouldn't pick Nate Solder either.
Yeah, but so far he's not. He's improved by playing more games, but the issue is there's been a couple injuries. He's shuffled around positionally. I still think he can pull it off. He has 8 weeks to really get together, but yikes town, population me.
Yeah, and I actually get to pat myself on the back here because I predicted that Mitchell Trubisky was going to be the most improved player in 2018. And thus far this season, he's thrown for 1,814 yards, 15 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. He's thrown. So he threw 2 touchdown passes and 3 picks in the first 3 weeks of the season. Since then, against teams Tampa Bay, Miami, New England, and the Jets, he has thrown for 13 touchdowns and 3 picks. Pretty impressive. And I think Nagy and Mitch have turned that offense around. And not only do the Bears have a top defense, top 2, top 3 defense in the NFL. They have a nice offense to go along with it. We're gonna go over here to the next award prediction. Was the comeback player of the year. I predicted that was going to be Andrew Luck. I think the comeback player of the year is usually a easy one to pick. It's usually the obvious stars who got hurt and come back. And I think I'm hitting it on the head with that one right now. Matt, who did you have as your comeback player of the year?
I'll just do a homer pick because I was thinking it was going to be Edelman.
Good. Well, that is a good pick. And I mean, you see how much better that offense is doing now that he's back with the acquisition of Josh Gordon, of course. Lyle, I think your comeback player is going to be the comeback player of next year. I think you predicted it a year too early.
Yeah, so he's out till at least after the bye week. It could still happen. He's a couple games, but no, he's probably not winning this year.
Who's that player? By the way, that you're talking about?
What?
Who's that player you're talking about? By the way?
Sorry, Dalvin Cook. He looked good coming back, and then he got re-injured, and hopefully he makes it back. We all wish for a speedy recovery because with him back in that lineup, as much as I love some Latavius Murray, Dalvin Cook adds a completely extra element. But I'm probably gonna be wrong on this one too.
Nick, you had J.J. Watt as your comeback player of the year. How's that looking so far?
I mean, I still like it. J.J. Watt has 4 forced fumbles on the year and 8 sacks. So as a player coming back from a serious injury, I think it's pretty phenomenal. In fact, that Aaron Donald has 10 sacks and he's leading the league. So to have 8, nice. I think I'm looking good.
Yeah. Head coach of the year, Lyle, you said Sean McVay. Nick, you said Matt Nagy. You both are looking good on that. Both coaches and teams do look good. Matt, who did you have as your head coach of the year?
The coach that should get it every year but never does.
Okay, Bill Belichick.
Boo. We believe in free speech here, but I need to censor this.
Oh, are you meaning like Todd Bowles had a chance?
No, absolutely not.
I never was going to mention that.
I can't. Bill Belichick. Ugh.
Yeah. So
makes me queasy.
Listen. Belichick is still a better answer than what I predicted. So
wait, who did you predict?
I got caught up in the Hard Knocks life. It's a hard knock life. And I predicted that Hugh Jackson would win Coach of the Year, and he didn't even win Coach of the first half of the year. He didn't even make it for the first half of the year. So I definitely dropped the ball on that. Matt, I'm even going to ask you. You definitely had Saquon Barkley winning Offensive Rookie of the Year, right?
I think you had to. I just don't think anybody had the stock that he did to come in and
so you had to pick Barkley. Like if you didn't pick Barkley, you were either a dum-dum or just a homer. So if I told you, Matt, that Nick and Lyle picked Sam Darnold, would you believe me?
Absolutely.
Clearly we're both dum-dum and homers.
Hey, Sam Darnold.
You never know.
Chance.
You're right. He could have a nice game stretch like Mr. Trubisky.
Yeah, I think out of all the offensive rookies, Saquon has separated himself from the pack. But there's always a chance that the Giants' run game goes straight to doo-doo, and Sam Darnold rips off, a couple wins and looks impressive and super square-jawed in doing so.
Hey, you know what? Out of all of the rookies, so Saquon obviously is above everyone else, and I try to watch as much tape as I can in my downtime, but I don't think Darnold's the best quarterback. Like, Rosen looks good. He throws guys open. He's hitting some good windows in a really, really bad offense.
Oof.
I mean, Darnold
man's quiet.
Rosen might look a little bit better, but the only reason is because he's covered by so much turd that you put a good looking turd with a bunch of turdy, it's going to look gorgeous. Sam Darnold has thrown some beautiful down the field passes. Again, he's a little rawer than expected, sure, but I think he's going to be the best finished product as long as we don't do Jets things and screw up another young quarterback.
So I'm gonna try to breeze through these so we could catch up on some time here. Defensive Rookie of the Year, Lau, you predicted Chubb. Nick, Roquan Smith. I predicted Derwin James. I do believe Chubb is finally picking things up as the season is getting better.
Bradley Chubb has 7 sacks, which is close to the top of the list of sack getters.
Right.
He looks good. He's not great. He doesn't play every down, but I think he's the best rookie so far. I'm sticking to my pick.
Yeah, I picked Derwin James, who's having a decent start to the season, but not, in my opinion, defensive rookie of the year. I as of right now, I may switch it over to Darius Leonard for the Colts, outside linebacker. He's having a tremendous season. In 7 games, he has 88 tackles, 4 sacks, 2 pass deflections, and 3 forced fumbles. And he is the only player. He reminds me of what he's doing right now, of what Khalil Mack did on the Raiders. The Raiders defense is atrocious, and Mack was the only bright spot. He's pretty much the same thing there for that Colts defense. Offensive Player of the Year, Nick, you and I do not speak in the segment at all. Matt, just so you don't know, we predicted Le'Veon Bell as an Offensive Player of the Year. Who did you have, Matt?
For Offensive Player of the Year?
Correct.
Can I jump in for Defensive Rookie?
Sure, of course.
I think Denzel Ward's going to get it. I think Derwin James is playing really good, but I think Ward is probably going to sneak away with it towards the second half, with Greg Williams being the head coach.
Right.
He's in Pro Football Focus. He's the number 9 rated corner right now.
In all of football?
Yeah.
Awesome.
So he's already looking the part, or Jair Alexander, because Jair was like my favorite guy coming out, but I love Ohio State, so Ward's my guy. But so then next would have been Offensive Player of the Year. I have no idea who I would have even thought. Like,
what about for the rest of the season? Based off what you've seen so far, who do you think ultimately gets it?
Oh, it's going to be Gurley, just because he's already going to be in the conversation for MVP of the league.
Lyle, who did you had? Kirk Cousins. Are you sticking by that?
I had Kirk. No, I can't. I really wanted to try and think of it, but again, you have Gurley,
like Patrick Mahomes or something.
You have Gurley, you have Mahomes, you have so many, you have a bunch of stars putting up redonkulous numbers. No, I have to look. You have to look at Mahomes or Tyreek Hill. Even you have to look at Kansas City. I think someone from Kansas City is going to get Offensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, I went with Myles Garrett for my Defensive Player of the Year. Now, the Browns' defense has looked good. Myles Garrett has started off the season hot, but has kind of fell off the face of the earth since. Lyle, you had Khalil Mack, which was a good, solid pick, who was probably the only player you want on your defensive line other than Nick's guy, who's Aaron Donald. Matt, who did you have winning the Defensive Player of the Year?
Probably Aaron Donald, just because I think he's probably the best player in football right now.
Right. Nick, you want to give us some stats on Aaron Donald so far?
Aaron Donald has 10 sacks on the year. Combined tackles, I got to do this math. It's not added up. But I think it's about like 28 solo tackles.
Awesome.
But 10 sacks in the year. He's on pace to have about 20. I think the record is 22 or 23 sacks in the season. I'm hoping he shatters that.
Matt, who's going to be your MVP by season's end?
Well, hold on. A side note for the Aaron Donald stuff is he's leading the league in sacks with 10, all while being double teamed 70% of the time. Like
70% of the time.
Wow. It seems almost impossible to get to the quarterback if you're being double teamed that much.
And so those numbers will be dramatically inflated had he not been double teamed at 70% of the time.
The most ridiculous thing about him, I think, is the fact that he's not even a defensive end. He's a defensive tackle doing this. It's absolutely ridiculous that an inside lineman is putting up stats like this. He might be the best player in football, period.
Right. But, yeah, for total MVP of the whole league, I feel like if it's not Gurley, and they do the quarterback thing, if the offense kind of keeps up, I think it's going to be Goff.
Goff. It's actually very interesting. I have a friend back in high school. He actually put a Vegas bet on Goff to win MVP in the beginning of the season. The payout was ridiculous. It was like $100 to win. Like, what was it, like, Nick? I think you saw the ticket like 2,200 or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. 22,
It was pretty
2,500.
ridiculous. Lyle, you had Tom Brady. Nick had Aaron Rodgers. I had Phillip Rivers. I'm not going to change my pick. Rivers is having a good year. He usually has a better second half of the season as he does first. So I do stick by that. Nick, what about you? Are you changing?
The way things are panning out now, I mean, you never know with Aaron Rodgers, especially as far as depleted as they are. But if I were to go with how things are looking now, and again, I think it's going to be a quarterback winning it, I'll go with the toss-up of Jared Goff or Patrick Mahomes. Whoever has a better record, I would say.
I have to stick with Tom Brady. He just doesn't lose games, and it's very upsetting, and I don't like it. As we know. But the man just doesn't stop, and he needs to immediately. And I think the Patriots, I think the Chiefs, Andy Reid it up. I think the Patriots are going to come out as the number 1 seed. And that's where Tom Brady gets his MVP. Because even with the Mahomes, even with all the great things happening in the AFC, Tom Brady and Bill Belichick still managed to pull out another number 1 goddamn seed.
Matt, I'm going to let you start us off here first. Give us your Super Bowl prediction and your Super Bowl winner.
So, Super Bowl prediction, Patriots being the AFC representative.
No surprise.
And we're going to just stick with the hot team in the NFC. And we're going to go with the Rams. And I think it's going to be Patriots over the Rams because I feel like they'll get just one more stop. And it'll be 38-34.
Wow. Nick?
Are we quoting him on that? I want to quote him.
It's on record.
It's already
It's on record. It's done. It's in stone. No, I think the Rams are a clear-cut NFC Super Bowl representative. Now, the AFC could get a little exciting. I think my original pick preseason was Rams-Chargers, which I could stand by that. I like the Chargers. Like you said, Phillip Rivers is more of a second half of the season type quarterback. Other teams I can throw in there would be Patriots or Chiefs. Again, I would love to see a Patriots-Chiefs rematch later on in the season. But I'll stick to Chargers-Rams.
Wow.
I'm going to stick with Chargers-Rams, and this is the big part. Phillip Rivers finally gets the ring he deserved those many years ago. Chargers are winning the Super Bowl.
I'm gonna stick with my prediction as well. It was Chargers and Rams in the beginning of the season. Actually, no, I'm sorry. I believe I had Chargers Vikings. But I'm regardless of what I had, I'm going Chargers and Rams. We're gonna go ahead and do some fantasy football right now. Talk about some of the players who surprised us, some studs and duds that we predicted before the season started. I want to know some fantasy football players who surprised you thus far this season. Matt?
I'm going to go with Matt Ryan. And I think it's because we thought so much of the Steve Sarkisian offense that it just wasn't going to take off. And he's still like a top 4 quarterback in fantasy right now. He's not turning the ball over. They're moving the ball really well. Even at that 2016 pace, their defense just isn't able to do anything. So they're basically the Saints of years past, where Matt Ryan's going to have to throw it 40-plus times.
He's the quarterback 3 right now of fantasy football, and he's only played 7 games. Pretty impressive. Nick, what about you?
I'm going to say a player that's impressed me, and not taking away anything from him. I'm not saying that he wasn't going to be good this year, but I did not think that he was going to be averaging 100 yards a game. And I'm talking about Adam Thielen. I'm not saying that he wasn't going to have a good year, but I was one of the people that said Stefon Diggs would be the bigger player on that team. And I know Matt, in the back of his head, felt the same way. But but Adam Thielen has been tremendous since I did not expect him to have 100 yards a game. I was hoping the Jets were going to snap that streak, but he got it against us. He's been phenomenal. And whoever drafted him, Well, good job.
He's the wide receiver 1 right now, full PPR, and Stephon Diggs is the wide receiver 9. So I mean, if you did make that switch out, I mean, you are kind of biting yourself because that's a 60-point difference between the two. But they're both ultimately still wide receiver 1s. Wow, what about you? Who's been so surprising to you?
So the reason why this person's surprising is because everyone A expected the sophomore slump and B expected the slump when Ingram came back, and that's your boy Alvin Kamara. The dude's still been a workhorse. He's only put up less than 15 points once against Washington, and he's just continued his dominance from last season, shutting up all the naysayers, except myself, who drafted him on almost every league because I had picked 6 in almost every league.
Now I'm gonna keep it with you here. Give me a player who hasn't performed or hasn't lived up to the fantasy football position that they were being drafted in this year.
Even with all the injuries and the trash team, Dougie Baldwin, my dude, he has been absolute doo-doo. Again, he missed a few games at the beginning of the season. Then when he comes back, he's not great. He's not doing too well. And with a team with no offensive weapons, you'd expect Russell Wilson to at least force it to him. But Dougie Baldwin has gone from wide receiver, top 15 wide receiver, to behind players like, Deshaun Jackson and Robbie Anderson and, players that get very inconsistent points. He hasn't put up that much, and it's disappointing.
Does he turn it around the second half of the season?
I goddamn hope so.
Matt?
Dud would be Kenyon Drake.
Really?
Yeah.
He's been a top 15 running back this season.
But it hasn't.
Yeah, but it's not consistent play. I'm completely with you on that, Matt. There's no consistency in Kenyon Drake. He'll have like 2 or 3 games where he breaks off like 20 plus fantasy points, and then does absolutely nothing.
4 out of the 8 games he's played have been under 10 points scored. So that's not anywhere what you were hoping when you drafted him. He's being lucked out by, the 17-point game against the Jets, the 25-point game against Cincinnati. He had a chance against Chicago, but then he dropped it on the goal line. And the 18, he's starting to pick it up maybe because of the last 2 games, but there's no way that he was a drop candidate after 4 weeks. Like, people were really concerned. So Kenyon Drake is my dud.
Nick, what about you? Who's your player who's underperformed so far?
I'll probably end up going with Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen has 500 yards in the season and 1 touchdown, with a quarterback who has 17 total touchdowns on the season. And Keenan Allen, I think, was a receiver that was going maybe like top 5, top 7 in fantasy drafts, and he's just 1 touchdown
as a receiver.
As a receiver, I'm saying yes. That's inexcusable. If you're a fantasy owner, you kind of jumped on him thinking he was going to be a top 5 to 7 receiver in the league, and he's just not doing so well.
So I want us to give us a chance to pat ourselves on the back here. Throw some light on ourselves. Give each other some props for some of the things that we called out before the fantasy football season. Right? There are so many quote unquote experts on fantasy football out there, and all the time we pat ourselves on the back, and all the times we try to avoid confrontation and conversation when we're wrong, right? We're going to pat ourselves on the back here first before we get into the fun part. Matt, I'll let you lead us off here first. Who's the one player that you predicted was going to be a stud this year, and they've proven you right so far?
So I know Nick has the guy that I was really on early on when his stock was super low. But I'll let him hit on him.
Go for it if you want to.
No, I got another one. But the one that I'm most proud of this year is Tyler Lockett. He's currently your wide receiver 24. And he was getting drafted at the end of the 12th round. So to get a top wide receiver 2, like a high-end wide receiver 2 in the 13th round, that's just hitting everything in the target. And the funny thing is so you have Tyler Lockett and Calvin Ridley, who are the 24 and 25. They have identical stat lines, except the fact that Tyler Lockett has not scored under 10 points in a game, and Calvin Ridley has 3 times or 4 times, one of those being a goose egg week 1. So Tyler Lockett is going to be the one that you want rest of the season, and he's going to start getting more targets, so look for it.
Lyle?
So the one I said on the air was T.Y. Hilton. I thought he'd have a great season coming. And when he plays, he did miss 2 games due to injury, which is heartbreaking to fantasy. But when he plays, you can expect 15 to 20 points consistently. And that's something we were kind of missing last year. This year, he's, again, putting up his solid numbers, and he's looking good. Another one who I picked up on waivers in one of my leagues, in a 12-team league, I picked him up on waivers, is Deshaun Jackson. My dude can still play, and it is wonderful to watch. And I love that I picked him up on waivers because he should be drafted in most leagues. But it's a beautiful thing to watch the man continue to work. And I think he's in the top 15 wide receivers right now, and it's just a gorgeous thing to watch.
Nick, what about you?
All right, so I got a guy that I apologize, Matt. I took him from you. This guy is so good. He even throws touchdowns. It's my boy Emmanuel Sanders. He has 660 yards receiving on the season, 50 receptions, 3 touchdowns, 28 passing yards, and a touchdown. He's currently ranked the 6th wide receiver in fantasy. And I just wanted to mention that pre-draft of the season, he was ranked 62nd average draft position, and he was behind his teammate Demaryius Thomas, who was ranked 43rd. Now, Demaryius Thomas isn't having as good as a season, and it just goes to show the value that Emmanuel Sanders brings to your team, having drafted him so low in the numbers that he is putting. Emmanuel Sanders is one of the reasons why my fantasy team is doing as well as it is, and I'm very, very grateful to him.
Nice. And I'm going to go ahead and pat myself on the back for calling out the rookie breakout other than Barkley, my man Kerryon Johnson. He did have a slow start to the season, but after getting 16 carries and 101 yards and giving the Detroit Lions their first 100-yard rusher in nearly 3 years, he had 13 fantasy points that week, 12.6 the week after that, and a 10.5 against Green Bay. Then the Detroit Lions went on a bye week 6, comes back 19.9 against Miami for 158 yards and a 15.1 points last week against Seattle. I'm patting myself on the back for Kerryon Johnson because when other people were doubting him coming out of the draft, and Matt, did we go way back talking about this? I had Kerryon Johnson's rank as the 2nd best rookie running back from January all the way to right before the start of the season. And the fact that I stood on that train, I'm giving myself a pat on the back for that. I want to talk about I also want to mention that I did call out the Marlon Mack breakout. Now, it's been a little bit weird with Marlon Mack. A lot of people have been on the Nyheim Hines or the Jordan Wilkins, saying that Mack was going to lose his spot to a rookie running back. And since he's come back in week 6, he has not. He scored 13.3 points against the Jets at New York, 31.9 at home against Buffalo, and then on the road 28.9 against Oakland. He has been nothing but amazing for you and nothing but an RB1 the past 3 weeks combined for your fantasy football team. But the thing is, after the bye week 9, he goes on the road. He comes home against Jacksonville, against Tennessee, against Miami, goes on the road against Jacksonville, goes on the road against Houston, then home against Dallas, home against the Giants. If you happen to make it to the championship game with Marlon Mack on your team, week 16, that's a juicy matchup with the Giants. And then week 12 against Miami. But to verse Jacksonville and Tennessee, I know Jacksonville's defense hasn't been the same, but is there anything like what they were last year against a rivalry team? If I was you and I had Marlon Mack on my fantasy team, I'm trying to sell high right now. What do you guys think?
It depends what you need. It depends on the needs of your team. Yes, you see what you can get, but I don't think you sell high for the sake of selling high. You sell high for the sake of bettering your team.
Of course, if you sell Marlon Mack for a high price, you're bettering your team. Matt, I want to ask you.
If you have stacked receivers, you sell high for a receiver that's only marginally better. I think you're safer holding on Mack.
Right, Matt. I want to ask you because you mentioned this before the podcast. If you own both Marlon Mack and Emmanuel Sanders, who would you be willing to cash in on more?
So
And
when
you have to
mean
keep in
cash
mind, you have to keep the other player on your team for the rest of the season.
So you're saying cash in is who I'm selling?
Who are you? Who between these two? Who
He
are you
means who
trading
you're
to make
buying.
your team better? No, who are you trading away?
Oh, okay.
Because I'm advocating that you trade Marlon Mack because his matchups don't look good going forward. At coming off 30-point games, people may be willing to pay a high price for him. Matt came out before the podcast and said this is the perfect time to trade Emmanuel Sanders for the same reason.
Well, I think you can get more for Sanders, so let him go because you could potentially better two positions if you can get him at top-notch value, top 10 wide receiver.
Right.
And the reason I say that is because even though Demaryius Thomas wasn't great, you still had to be aware of him on the field to where Sanders wasn't being the main takeaway point. With Courtland Sutton there, they're going to be more likely to make him prove himself with one-on-one coverage and taking away Emmanuel Sanders. So I feel like this is the perfect time to get rid of Emmanuel Sanders.
Nick, I am the Keenan Allen owner. I offer you Keenan Allen for Emmanuel Sanders. What do you do?
I accept.
Matt?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely try to get Keenan Allen back, hoping for a second half surge.
Okay. I have Kenny Galladay. I offer you Kenny Galladay for Emmanuel Sanders. Nick?
No, I wouldn't accept that.
Matt?
Absolutely.
I would accept that too. With the trade of Golden
No.
Tate, I definitely would probably definitely take that. Lau, I want to ask you one now. I have Josh Gordon. I offer you Josh Gordon for Emmanuel Sanders.
I've already taken it. I've taken it 3 years ago.
All right, Matt, we'll start off with you here first. Pat yourself on the back for a dud that you called out for this season.
A dud? Probably. Let's see here. Probably Mark Ingram, just because he had the first good game, his first game back. But since then, he's kind of been just below average. He's averaging like less than 4 yards a carry. So we're not getting that same Saints offense. And Kamara, unfortunately, because I was fading him really hard, expecting regression, his efficiency is kept up.
Nick, what about you? Want to give us one of your duds that you called out in the beginning of the season and it's panning out that you look like a genius?
The sad thing is I kind of called out Amari Cooper being a dud. And the sad thing is I still ended up drafting him just because he fell so damn low. And I said the value is there. But Amari Cooper has been so damn disappointing. The guy has 280 yards receiving on the year and 1 touchdown. It's killing me.
What's even worse about it is that you saw Brandon LaFell tonight get so many looks and so many targets and actually be effective with Carr that why couldn't they do that with Amari Cooper there? I really do not understand.
How much money has John Gruden made so far, Lyle?
He's definitely got off the tab.
Let me check. Give me 1 second. $1,123.
Oh my god!
Awesome.
To lose 34-3.
What about you? You wanna? I mean, even though I don't agree with the person you're going to talk about, but do you want to pat yourself on the back for?
I'm gonna lightly pat myself on the back, very gently, because he did have 2 monster weeks. As I said in the fantasy podcast, he would not be consistent. He would not get the targets that you're looking for a consistent wide receiver, and people were going to draft him too high. And we're seeing that with Calvin Ridley. He had 2 monster games. He had a 40-point game, which you rarely see, but he has not been consistent. He hasn't put up more than 8 points since his monster 2 weeks. And in that respect, yes, he's a dud for where people were looking at to draft him, where people were looking for him to be. They were looking for him to be consistent 15-point guy. He's not there, as I stated. Again, he will get that monster week, but you got to pick out that week, and most people cannot do that.
Yeah, so I'm going to pat myself on the back here. I'm going to pat myself on the back very, very hard because I called out Derrick Henry being a buzz. I even came out and said that I would draft Dion Lewis over Derrick Henry because Derrick Henry was going to be a bust. I'm going to give you some names here. Alfred Morris, Jamal Williams, Tom Montgomery, Devontae Booker, and the best one of them all, Kyle Juszczyk all have more fantasy football points than Derrick Henry. That's so sad. Ridiculously sad. He has 84 carries for 273 yards on the season and 1 rushing touchdown. He's losing work to Dion Lewis not only in the pass game, but in the run game as well. So if you ask me, I think that deserves a strong pat on the back for not buying into the fact that this guy was being drafted in the late 3rd, early 4th round in fantasy drafts. And
yeah, Justin, I only have one thing to say.
Thank you. So now, for our last segment, we're gonna do some call outs here. So we did our NFL predictions for the rest of the season, and we gave you our predictions, what we made at the beginning of the season, our award predictions, our Super Bowl predictions, as well as some stud and duds that we called out early in the season for fantasy football. Now we have to dig deep into the archives here, fellas. Everyone's getting one shot to call someone out on what they want. You can make it 1 or 2 things, whatever it is that you want to do. Just make it quick if it's 2 topics. Make it slow. You take your time if it's 1. And Lyle, being that you make the most ridiculous comments of us all, I'm going to give you the floor first. So you go ahead and call one of us out on something bogus that we predicted and or said.
I'm going to call you and Nick out. I'm going to call you both out. Yes, it might not have anything to do with predictions, but you two are the fantasy gurus. What is our Scott Fishbowl team? What is the team that you guys drafted? It is absolutely terrible. And you guys didn't want any advice from me, even though none of my teams are below 500. I think the worst one is 5-3. Everything else is 7-1 or 6-2. And you guys are like, no, we got the Scott Fishbowl. We know what we're doing. And the team is terrible. Russell Wilson at the 2nd pick, and Sean McCoy has been great. Great job, guys. You guys are terrible. You guys are the worst fantasy players in the world, and I'm still super mad about it because I at least would have drafted a competitive team. It would have still lost, but it would have been competitive. And that's me calling the 2 of you out.
I was under the impression that there was going to be no Lyle Goes Wild today. So this is uncalled for, sir.
I'm super heated about it.
I actually like this. I actually like this call out a lot because our team does suck in Scott Fishbowl, but we are still 3-5. So
yes. Next year,
we pooped the bed on this one.
I need a bigger say in next year because even though some of my predictions are crazy, my drafts are on point.
Hey, we took Barkley with the 1st overall pick.
I want to blame Justin on that saying.
I do want to blame him.
It's completely Justin's fault.
Okay, but I'm still blaming you, Nick, because you still had some say. Now I'm done.
I didn't want Russell Wilson 2nd. I'm just saying.
Yeah, Nick, why don't you go call someone out? Because I know who you want to call out.
I want to call out Justin because he said that Drew Brees was going to be a top 12 quarterback. He's wrong. It's
really that's the one you're going to go with?
Yeah. Or the fact they said Hugh Jackson was going to be coach of the year, or the fact they said the Browns defense was going to be, the top 2 or 3 in the.
So I said Browns were going to be top 10 in fantasy football. Right now they are
definitely not even top.
They're number 6. Yep, they're number 6. And Drew Brees is the number 11th quarterback. And if you look at the people that are below him, Phillip Rivers, who we all think is going to be MVP in the Super Bowl, Ben Roethlisberger, Russell Wilson underneath him.
The Browns are not top 6.
Browns are top 6 fantasy football defense right now.
Absolutely not. I'm looking at it right now.
Well, I don't know where you're looking, buddy, but we're all on the same site. So you must be on something different.
Yeah, they're in the top 6. But it still was a ridiculous statement that will not pan out by the end of the year because the Browns are, unfortunately, still a remnant of duck butter.
So yeah, so you can't call me out on either of those 2 things.
No, you can just call him out on the 2nd round Russell Wilson pick. That we can call him out on.
Matt, do you want to call someone out here? I have a feeling I'm going to get called out for a 3rd time.
I'm not going to call anybody out. I'm not, a regular here. I do see, a couple of misses. Maybe Lyle on his Derrick Henry breakout or Nick ridiculous. On his Marcus Mariota because obviously suck.
I forgot about that.
Lyle, you think
I didn't anticipate Delaney Walker dying game 2 of the season.
Hey, man, or T.Y. Hilton over both of the Vikings receivers.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I forgot Lyle did that. See, look,
Lyle said a lot of ridiculous things.
Matt is dropping some heat right now.
His records speak for themselves.
Yeah.
What record is that?
Yeah, so I was gonna go ahead and try to call out everybody here, but I'm not. And the reason why I'm gonna do that, I have to call out myself. Um, I'm calling out myself because I call myself, and I don't care like what you say. And Nick, I don't care if you disagree with me or not for taking Russell Wilson in the second round in the Scott Fish Bowl League.
Oh, sir.
I have to shame myself here. I predicted, I don't know if you guys remember, that the Seahawks were going to be the worst team in the NFC West. I did not put any faith behind Russell Wilson and the Seahawks team. I did not put any faith in Matt's newfound love for the Seahawks, being that he lives on the West Coast and that's all he is surrounded by Seahawks fans. I have to shame myself there. Russell Wilson, I apologize. I will wear your shirt for the rest of the week to honor you and your beautiful wife, Sierra. I should have never predicted you to be last, the Seahawks to be last in the NFC West. But I have to call myself out on that, and I'm surprised none of you guys did either. Knowing my love for Russell Wilson,
they're still a garbage team.
Okay, but they're not last, and they're far from last in their division.
Very true.
Okay, well, that will do it for this episode of J&J Talk Sports Podcast. This is the mid-season NFL review with a little sprinkle of fantasy football as well. Make sure you follow us on Instagram and Twitter at J&J Talk Sports. Make sure you email us at jnjtalksports@gmail.com with any questions, concerns, comments, and or future topics you would like for us to discuss. You can follow me on Instagram, on Twitter at easypalizzi_21. Lau, where can our listeners follow you?
The listeners can find me at Twitter at Lyles Style, LYLESSTYLE. They can also find me on twitch.tv/Hellbent Tabletop on Tuesdays, doing nerd things as well, because I am also a nerd.
Nick?
And they can find me at StefanoN51. That's STEPHANOUN51.
Matt,
And
I want to go ahead and thank you once again for hopping on to the show. We really appreciate the feedback and the hot takes. And I also appreciate you calling out every single one of us for something that we missed after you said that you weren't going to call us out.
yeah, no, right.
But
so passive aggressive, bro.
Where can that was such a Belichick thing to do. Where can our listeners follow you on Twitter, man?
They can find me at Kegler Matt, and that's KOEGLERMATT.
Awesome. From everyone here at J&J Talk Sports, from Matt being our special guest yet again, we are out.
Wait, we're not out yet. Give it 3 seconds. 2, 1. John Gruden has made $1,300. Now we are out.
Later.